Before we start this video, this is just a quick announcement that my uploading schedule will be going back to twice a week after this video. My uploading schedule will be Wednesdays and Mondays, Australian Eastern Standard Time. If you want more information on my uploading schedule, go to my About page on my channel and it will be there. Now let's get into the video. Hey lovelies, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Amity Gilmour and this is my life. Like, actually this time I am going to be sharing my testimony. Before we do that, let's go have a shower, let's go get some food, and then let's sit down in our jammies. Let's just have a pajama party together. Salad, chicken snitty and chips, and garlic sauce. Chicken. I didn't even say grace. Thank you, Lord, for this food. Bless it to my body. Amen. My testimony. I'm not going to go full in depth with everything to do with my life because, number one, it's a long story. Number two, there's some things that I don't feel comfortable sharing, but I will briefly mention some things. This is a trigger warning before we start. Some of the things that I'm going to be talking about is a little bit unsettling. I will be talking a little bit about DB. Yeah, I think that's like the only thing. Oh, and sickness as well, if you find medical stories a bit hard. First of all, I'm just going to also say that this is not my story, this is God's story. He is the master author, that's what I believe. I believe that he is the one that writes my story, and I believe it's a beautiful story. Everything that happens in my story is for a reason. I would also like to extend the trigger warning. If your name is Karen and you own a channel called That Vegan Teacher, I will be eating meat in this video. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I love chicken. I just love chicken. My story starts on the 24th of May 2000 when I was born. It was an interesting birth story, considering the fact that when my mum had started going into labour, she decided that instead of going straight to the hospital, she wanted instead to be rushed to the university to finish a music exam where she had to play the clarinet while in labour and having contractions, and then as soon as she finished the exam she rushed to the hospital and voila, I am here. Kind of makes sense because I love music. Now, to give you a little bit of family background, my mom, beautiful Christian woman, strong Christian woman. My dad, not so much. Now that there was a kid, because I'm the firstborn, my mum started to notice my dad was not good with kids, and he also was no longer good with anyone, really. The honeymoon phase was over. I grew up in a situation where my dad was abusive, physically and verbally. I was kicked, punched, beaten, a whole bunch of different things at a young age. Thrown up against a wall, sworn at. It was hard. When I was 7 years old, my father tried to suffocate me at church in the car park. I was locked in the car with him and I couldn't breathe because he had his hands like over and I couldn't breathe. It was also not helping the fact that the church we're going to, the minister of that church, pulling me aside as a 6-year-old and 7-year-old, telling me that I wasn't allowed to tell anyone, or that I shouldn't tell anyone what was going on at home because my daddy loves me and it would be doing him a disfavour if I told people. So of course, as most of these stories go, I didn't tell anyone. By the time I was 8, we were able to find a different church, and the minister of that church noticed that something was wrong, and it was actually him who helped our family get out of the DV situation. Even after being out of it, there was a bunch of custody battles and stuff. After everything that I'd been through, I developed depression and anxiety. Also, it didn't help that at the same time this was going on, I was going through pretty significant bullying at school. And when I mean significant, I mean like school-wide. It was a big school, and because I was different, because of my Tourette syndrome, there was basically school-wide bullying that included teachers as well, unfortunately. Despite all this going on, my mum was still faithful to God, and so I guess I did the same because that's what mum did. I, at that point, was saved through my mum's faith. I was tailcoating my mother's faith. Then we get to when I'm 12. It was a new season in my life. I'd changed schools and I went on this camp. It's a Christian holiday camp. Pretty much on every holiday I'd go to a Christian camp. And at 12 years of age, I gave my life to Christ on that camp. That meant that my faith was my own. I believed that Jesus died for my sin and rose again because he loved me so much, not because I deserved it, because I totally didn't deserve it, just because of grace alone. Jesus died for me and I decided to give my life to him. Of course, I went home from this Christian camp on a real high, but as it usually goes, it probably lasted less than a week and then I was kind of back into my rowdy self. I kind of saw it at that point as I said the sinner's prayer, which I don't exactly believe that the sinner's prayer is some magical prayer now. There's a video for another day. I believe that, I prayed, I asked Jesus into my life, and so now it's like a get out of jail free card and a label. Figuratively, it's like a label I wear on my shirt. I'm a Christian, that's who I am, and that just means that I have a get out of jail free card, which meant that I continued living life the way I was living before. I really struggled with behavioral problems because of my autism. I just couldn't say or do anything right, and I don't even know what it was. I just struggled. My first 2 years of high school, I had a depression relapse. I was a mess. Things were going downhill fast, and I was struggling, and I didn't know why I was struggling so much with behavior, depression, and I didn't understand why all the time I try so hard to be good, but I never could be good. Fast forward till my 3rd year of high school, the very beginning. I went on another Christian camp. Surprises, surprises. It was an all-girls camp. There was about 11 or 12 girls. It was horse riding. The faith I saw in the leaders and the other kids at that camp was contagious. I wanted to have what they had. And that's when I realized that being a Christian is not a label. It's not just a get out of jail free card. It's a relationship. That's the big word, a relationship. And I'm telling you, as soon as I started not worrying about trying to be good enough, not worried about trying to do the right thing, but first and foremost, worried about spending time with God and spending time in his word and spending time praying to him and developing very, very strong relationship with him, that change followed. I no longer wanted to do the wrong thing, so I did the right thing. It wasn't a case of I tried so hard to do the right thing, because we can't do it in our own strength. I was in love, head over heels in love with God, head over heels in love with Jesus, and head over heels in love with his word. In that year, I read the entire New Testament except for 3 Gospels. I read 1 Gospel. I'm not going to say it was like a change that happened overnight, because it wasn't. Sanctification, which is basically spiritual growth. It is not a straight diagonal line. It's actually like up and down. When I got into year 10 the next year, I ended up meeting with God less, and I struggled a lot. I had another depression relapse in year 10 so bad that I had to take Wednesdays off and stay home from school, and I was taking other days off as well. I missed a bit of schooling in year 10. There was also a lot of bullying going on, and I felt worthless because of what was being said to me throughout year 10. Because I had started to place my worth and my focus on what other people thought about me rather than what God thought about me. And so it continued all through the rest of high school. First year out of high school, I did an internship with the church. My problem here was I thought because I was doing God's work and I was doing stuff in the church, that instantly meant I'm doing a lot of work, so I don't have to spend time with God in my alone, quiet time. I'm just going to quote a line from one of my favorite For King and Country songs. My original subscribers will know I love them. And they're speaking to God and they're saying, "So busy doing your work that we forgot that this was for you." And that's how I feel that year went. A relationship is better than good works. Remember, that is where grace comes in. That was the whole problem I was struggling in the first place, because I was trying to do good works. I was failing because I didn't have the relationship in order to do the good works. By the end of that year, I started getting these weird pains, and I didn't really know what was going on. And they started to intensify until the new year, when it was extremely intense. The pains were awful. I was getting nausea, vomiting, just a whole lot of other stuff. I wasn't keeping down water. That was like the biggest struggle. I was so dehydrated all the time. It took us ages to find what was wrong. In fact, at one point, the people around me thought I wasn't going to make it. I've lost so much weight that I look back at pictures now and I'm like, oh my goodness, I literally, like, you can see my bones. It's not good. It was in this time that my faith started to grow again. When the storm comes, there's two ways to act. The first is to completely and utterly disregard God, basically blame it on Him and go the opposite direction. The second is to lean deeper into Him. I went through both of these phases. First of all, my first phase was I was leaning deep into Him and I was trusting Him, and it was like this trust that I had in a time where I didn't even know I was going to make it out alive. People thought I was dying. I got the diagnosis, obviously, as you guys know, I have gastroparesis. If you didn't know, I have gastroparesis. If you don't know what that is, I'll leave a link up here to a video explaining what gastroparesis is. And then we fast forward again to the end of last year. I was getting worse and worse, worse and worse. The medication that was helping at one stage that put my weight back on was starting to fade, and I wasn't able to do that again. And it got to a point where my doctor's like, you need a feeding tube. I got a feeding tube and it helped so much. I got my energy back and I was able to do so much, which is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that my health is in a great place at the moment. But I then started to slip again with my faith. The reason I slipped was purely because I thought that I had it under control and I didn't need God. And I was also kind of angry at Him as well, because I did go through a few things as well. They weren't like, well, some of them were severe, but I guess they weren't as severe as before I got the tube, because the tube has really helped me. But I kind of had that like false confidence where it's like, I don't need God. And so I kind of just started not thinking about Him and just putting Him to the back burner, until a month ago. I had to get an MRI because I had a suspected tumour on my pituitary gland. I had no idea what that meant. I still kind of don't understand it, to be honest, because I'm still like in that limbo of waiting to hear more. A couple weeks later, it was confirmed after an MRI. It was confirmed that yes, I do have a pituitary tumour. Again, don't even know exactly what that means. It is benign, but it's just a hassle. It was in this moment that I started to realise how far it's sunken. I'm starting to get the pieces back together again. Trust is hard, but trust provides hope when you can trust something that is trustworthy. And God is trustworthy. So I can trust Him, and I'm learning more and more to trust Him, and I'm still broken and I still get angry sometimes. I still do things. I'm still trying to pick up the pieces, and it's hard. It's really hard because I have just been bitter as well about a few things in terms of my past, and I have to learn to forgive, and that's a big task. So I guess all I can say is slowly and steadily, I'm taking it one day at a time, trusting in God. That was the video for today. I feel so sick and I'm not going to eat the rest of this. I'm going to save it for like another couple of days. Have some tomorrow, have some the day after, who knows. So another idea that I want to put past you guys that I've had is I just really love the idea of being able to share more deep thoughts and deep sort of conversations and stuff. And so I decided that I'm going to introduce a new segment on this channel. It will be a monthly segment. I'm thinking of calling this segment Jammy Party with Auntie Amy. No, I am not an auntie by blood, but however my friends have decided that it's fun to have kids, so I have a lot of non-biological nieces and nephews. Non-biological. If you guys have any questions that you would want me to, or any topics you would want me to talk about in terms of getting deep and meaningful, or if you have any suggestions of anyone who has appeared on my channel before, if you want to hear their testimony or want to hear a story from them that's deep and meaningful, give me a DM on Instagram. My Instagram is @AmityGilmour. DM me, let me know your questions about it, and just start the DM by saying, hey, like, here is an idea for the Jammy Party. If you don't have Instagram, however, comments down below will be just as great. And I am so excited to be doing this more in-depth thing, and Hector is screaming at me. Hector, shut up! If you liked this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up, and if you liked it even more, don't forget to click that subscribe button. And if you've made it this far in the video, comment down below the moon emoji. Love you guys. God bless.